Have you ever wondered what would happen if a bold financial investment changed your life overnight? Today, we are going to dive into the incredible story of Christopher Thbd, a Canadian carpenter who turned his savings into a colossal fortune of over $400 million before losing it all. Christopher's story is a modern tale of the dizzying rise and fall of an amateur trader. How is this possible? Hold tight, because this story is as thrilling as it is confusing. Christopher Thbd's story begins like that of many individual investors. He was a 29-year-old carpenter living in a small town on Vancouver Island in Canada. Alongside his work, Christopher had another passion: financial markets. So after his workshop hours, he'd spend time reading online forums and studying various trading strategies. He mastered trading techniques and specialized in a specific type of investment: options. And on the financial markets, one company in particular attracted Christopher's attention: Tesla, the company founded by Elon Musk. At the end of 2019, Christopher made a bold decision that would change his life. He placed all his savings, $88,000, into Tesla options. This extremely risky bet would eventually pay off in a spectacular way. To fully grasp the events that will follow, it is crucial to understand what an option is and how it works. An option is a financial product that gives an investor the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell a stock at a predetermined price on a future date. There are two main types of options. First, call options. These give the right to buy a stock at a specific price. If the stock price rises, you can then buy the stock at a lower price, then making a profit. And the second type of options are put options. These give the right to sell a stock at a predetermined price, even if the stock's value has dropped in the meantime. What makes options so appealing to many investors, like Christopher, is leverage. Unlike directly buying stocks, options allow you to control a much larger quantity of stock for a smaller initial investment. This amplifies potential gains, but also increases potential losses. In 2020, Tesla experienced a meteoric rise during the COVID-19 pandemic. While the global economy faced massive disruptions, Tesla was clearly a standout. The company's stock increased by over 700% in less than a year. For Christopher Thbd, this was the jackpot. Speculating on Tesla call options, his portfolio skyrocketed. In February of the year 2020, his portfolio, that had started at $88,000 just a few months earlier, reached $5.5 million. And this was just the beginning. By June 2020, his fortune surpassed $26 million. At just 30 years old, Christopher owned Tesla options worth a colossal amount, thanks to his bold and risky strategy. He had gone from being a carpenter and amateur investor to a multimillionaire in less than a year. Imagine the dream life possible with tens of millions of dollars at 30 years old. Christopher literally had this chance, with one small detail: he had not yet sold his options to secure his profits. Realizing the immense wealth he was sitting on, Christopher faced a turning point in his life. In July 2020, he contacted the Royal Bank of Canada, the RBC, one of the country's largest financial institutions. He was seeking advice on transforming his speculative fortune into a stable income source. He aimed to invest in safer assets, retire securely, buy a home, and enjoy his new wealth comfortably. At this point, his portfolio was valued at $50 million. However, RBC advisors and accountants from Grant Thornton LLP suggested a completely different strategy. Instead of liquidating some of his options to secure profits, They advised him to continue heavily investing in Tesla options, using a special legal structure to minimize taxes. This strategy carried significant risks. Concentrating excessively on one stock, Christopher was entirely dependent on Tesla's performance. While potentially highly lucrative, this approach was also extremely risky and dangerous. Following experts' advice, Christopher used his Tesla options as collateral to take out loans from RBC to buy even more options. By November 2021, his portfolio reached an astonishing 415 million Canadian dollars, having started with just 88,000 2 years earlier. This extremely rapid rise almost seems surreal. Of course, his advisors congratulated him, and he even made a $17 million donation to RBC's charity fund to further reduce his future taxes. However, a few months later, everything changed. In 2022, after years of growth, Tesla began to face difficulties. Its stock value plummeted dramatically, losing nearly 34% in just a few months. For Christopher Thbd, this was catastrophic. His assets, once valued at $415 million at their peak, began melting in front of his eyes. Since he had taken loans based on his gains to increase his exposure, he was forced to sell options at a loss to repay his debts. In the stock market, Tesla's downfall continued, and Christopher's fortune disappeared in front of his eyes. In desperation, Christopher took out one last loan of $20 million to trade personally and try to recover his losses. However, he failed and lost the entire amount. By October 2022, his portfolio, once worth nearly $500 million, was now worthless. All the dreams and desires he had imagined achieving vanished into thin air. Faced with this disastrous situation, Christopher Thbd did not remain passive. He filed a lawsuit against RBC and Grant Thornton LLP, accusing them of negligence. He argued that his advisors had poorly guided him by proposing a financial strategy that did not meet his need for security and that he did not fully understand. He specifically criticized them for not listening to his desire to gradually reduce his positions to build a stable and passive income. Instead, they favored complex tax strategies that exposed him to catastrophic market risks. Christopher believes that if he had received more cautious advice, he could have retained a significant portion of his fortune. However, none of these allegations have so far been proven in court, and the lawsuit is still going. RBC advisors argue that Christopher Thbd was a highly skilled investor and knew exactly what he was doing, which, of course, Christopher disputes. In conclusion, Christopher Thbd's story is a striking lesson for anyone tempted by quick financial gains. In just 2 years, he went from a carpenter to a multi-millionaire, only to lose everything he had gained. This story reminds us that investing in high-risk products like options can be as destructive as it can be lucrative. For my part, what shocks me the most in this story is that Christopher managed to weather the volatility of his Tesla options for 2 years, through both rises and falls, without ever once decisively taking his profits. Indeed, the rise wasn't a straight line. Before reaching its peak at $415 million, his portfolio had suffered declines of probably more than 50%, wiping out tens of millions of dollars of profit along the way. How, then, did he not realize that things could easily go in both directions, and that it would have been wise to at least secure part of his profits once and for all? That way, he could have lived the life of his dreams and make sure his loved ones were financially secure. If you were in his place, how do you think you would have acted? And if you were the judge on this case, who do you think is truly at fault? In any case, this story is clearly, yet tragically, one of my favorite trading tales because it is both spectacular and heartbreaking. To wrap up, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments section or subscribe to the channel. As for me, I'm just getting started on this new channel. I'll see you very soon. Ciao.